In the last little segment, we were talking about the mind of man. Man's mind is a tremendous gift. God has given us this amazing gift, and it's a gift that is meant to be an analog of the mind of our Creator. That is, God has given us this mind, and it is to function on terms that He has laid down. God has laid out the terms in His covenant. The terms are literally this: because we are image bearers. That's why you and I have a mind, because we are image bearers. God created us. We know this in Genesis. God created us in His own image and in His own likeness. And in order for that image and likeness to be available, to be seen, we have to have certain characteristics and qualities. And God has given us a mind that mirrors His mind, but the mind of man is in no way ultimate. The mind of man is in no way final authority in any matter whatsoever. My mind is not the final authority. It is the mind of God that is final authority. And that should be rather comforting for us, but it isn't. The reason why it isn't is because man's mind loves to be able to throw off the shackles, so to speak. They aren't shackles, of course, but it loves to be able to throw off the restrictions that having to think in terms of God's mind place upon us. Now, if we can imagine what it was like for Adam before Adam fell, before the fall in the garden took place, here is Adam, and he is fellowshipping with God in the cool of the day. He's got this amazing mind. I mean, God tells Adam, this is on day 6 before God has finished with the entirety of creation. God has created Adam. He's not yet created Eve. And God gives Adam the task of naming all the animal kinds. Now, not all the animals, not every single animal, but categorizing the animals into kinds and classifying those kinds. And Adam gets that job done before Eve is created. Absolutely amazing. Well, obviously, because when God created Eve, He put Adam to sleep. And Adam has this incredible capacity in his mind. His mind has an amazing capacity to do what God has created it to do. And as long as he is using his mind lawfully, his mind has to be used in terms that God has laid down. The moment his mind breaks those terms, the moment Adam breaks those terms, he is no longer functioning lawfully. Right? Why? Because the governing mind is the mind of God. Adam's mind is not the governing mind. Okay? Now, Adam's mind has to learn how to govern, but again, on God's terms. Adam's mind has to learn to govern as a servant mind to the mind of God. And so all is well as long as Adam is doing what he's meant to do, as long as Adam is doing what God requires him to do. And having named the animals, God then creates the woman. And she is created, and all is well for a season. We don't know how long. We know on the 7th day God rested. But in Genesis chapter 3, we see another mind entering the picture. So here is the mind of God. God has given his mind to Adam. He's laid out his mind before Adam. Adam knows he must function in terms of the mind of God. Adam knows that his mind must be faithful to the mind of God. He knows that. And yet, here comes another mind into the picture. Here comes the father of lies. Now, the father of lights has placed Adam in the garden to be a dominion servant, right? Genesis 1 and verse 28, the commission that was laid out by the living God, be fruitful and multiply. First says, and God blessed them. Otherwise, they can't do any of this. God blessed them, and he said, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue the earth and have dominion upon the earth. That's having dominion over the works of God's hands. There is this amazing commission, and man needs to be in possession of his mind in order to carry out that mandate, in order to fulfill that mandate. And so Adam, knowing that he is to do these things and knowing that his mind is to be subject to the mind of God, and we said that in an earlier clip, that is, Adam has to receive wisdom from God. His mind is not the source of wisdom. It's an analog. It's an analog of the mind of God. It's a receiver. It is a servant. And so Adam must receive wisdom from God's mind in order for his mind to have something to work with, in order for his mind to make decisions, because God has created man's mind to be able to make decisions. God has created man's mind to be able to determine matters. God has created man's mind to be able to plan. It's an astounding gift. And as long as we make decisions on God's terms, as long as we plan on God's terms, as long as we determine things on God's terms, we are using our mind lawfully. But on the other hand, if we break those terms, then the mind is going to function unlawfully. So God takes Adam in the garden and puts him on test. Why is Adam on test in the garden? Well, his loyalty has to be proven. Adam is going to have to pass through the loyalty test. I believe there was going to be more than one test. He failed the first one. Why would I say there would have been more than one test? Because the last Adam, Jesus Christ, had to go through more than one. So Adam failed the first one. And we have no idea how many more there would have been for him to have to pass through. He failed the first one. That was the end of the story. And the reason why he failed the first one is the serpent entered the picture and began to talk to his wife. Now, the serpent needed Adam to carry out a certain action in order for his agenda to be successful. But he spoke to Adam's wife in order to get a particular result out of Adam. And in talking to Adam's wife, what he wanted her to do is he wanted her to begin to reason outside of the wisdom of God. That's what he wanted her to do. And so here they have the wisdom of God. The wisdom of God is contained in the voice of God. And we are told in the beginning was the Word, right? John chapter 1 and verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And if we take that Greek word there, logos, which is translated word in our English Bibles, that logos can also be translated by the word speech. In the beginning was the speech, and the speech was with God, and the speech was God. Another word that we could use for that would be voice. In the beginning was the voice, and the voice was with God, and the voice was God. So that kind of opens this thing up a little bit for us, because here is the deal. God told us in His Word that we are to live by every word that comes from the mouth of God. Every word. In other words, everything that God's voice has uttered. Those are the terms of life. Those are the terms. We must live by every word that has come from the mouth of God. And so now the serpent begins to talk to the woman, and he wants her to begin reasoning outside of the mind of God. And we'll continue with this line of thought in the next little segment that we're going to do.